The Kansas City Chiefs are making a trade and sending L'Jarius Sneed to Tennessee. What's the compensation? What does this trade actually do? Right now on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome into this bonus episode, everyone. Last night, Chiefs agreed to trade cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, who's on the franchise tag right now, to the Tennessee Titans. And this is your bonus episode, breaking it down from what we know at this point. Now, I'm still working on my morning coffee and want to give you fresh perspective on what this means. We've been theorizing it for quite a while. It comes down to a couple of aspects, the triangle of the player's ability, the contract he has to have, and the compensation for getting a trade done. The compensation part of this deal falls very, very flat. And I know, especially for the fan base, that's not going to be a happy place to go. But this is what it looks like. The Chiefs are swapping 7th-round picks in this draft, and they're getting the Titans' number 3 third-round pick in next year's draft, 2025. Now, let's be honest. That is likely to be 75 or we'll call it 80 or better. Right now, the Chiefs, we have to predict, are going to be back in the Super Bowl. So we're talking they're going to be at 94 plus. So they will get an additional pick next draft cycle that will be better than their current one. The difference being that had the Chiefs not pulled off this trade, they would have probably been able to let him go and get a compensation pick, most likely at that third-round level, somewhere between 96 and 104. Now, if you're new to this channel, make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. I'm doing this as a bonus here. This is not our normal format. You'll see me and Chris Clark. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, as well as RGR Football. And you can get on here every single day for Locked On Chiefs across the whole network of Locked On. We are here for you 5 days a week, every time on every platform, starting here on YouTube, but going out to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and everywhere there's a free show, you can get us. Now, the compensation obviously is not what we had expected. The going rate has been coming down. Carlton Davis trade kind of gave part of that away. The fact that L'Jarius Sneed is a 27-year-old corner coming off of his first contract that has an injury history, and I think the concern is has a significant career limitation due to some of those injuries, whether it's concussion, whether it's the knee. There's a number of things going on there. And while other organizations trying to work a trade aren't going to get an inside look at him, aren't going to get a physical on him, he does have to pass this physical in order for this trade to conclude. That is one caveat that we have to remember as this comes down. Now, this is the announcement that the word's gotten out that they're going to do this. It hasn't been executed yet, so there are still a couple of things out there. But it has to be based on the physicality, and it comes down to whatever team was to acquire him has to be comfortable with his longevity and his injury history in order to give him the contract. No team wants to trade for a franchise tag player and leave him on the tag because you're not getting any compensation. You're then putting yourself up for a free agent the next season. So it always comes with that contract. The contract side of this comes out at $19 million a year, what he's been looking for, equivalent to the franchise tag. But here's the big thing. The numbers are a little bit foggy. I'm seeing a couple of different reports. It comes down to this. The one thing everybody agrees on is $55 million guaranteed. And that's really the key here. For L'Jarius Sneed, for his representation, for his entire family, this is the second contract you're hoping for because this is life-changing money. It's not Chris Jones' life-changing money, but 55 guaranteed sets you up for not just your post-football life, but your kids' lives, which I do believe he just had a newborn that he's dealing with at the moment. It sets you up for maybe beyond that as well, probably beyond that. This is family-changing money, and you can't blame the player for wanting to go get that. The fact that the player got a team to invest that much money in him for the long-term contract, that's part of why this deal gets done, but it's also part of why the Chiefs didn't get the compensation we had all thought was probably going to be on the table. And that's really what it comes down to. At the end of the day, it's a two-pronged attack. It's two ends of that triangle, in that the new team has to pay him, but they also have to compensate the team that holds his rights right then. And that's probably the big issue, is it comes down to what they're getting in return. It's not much more, because the Titans had to put that money into the contract. And so, unfortunately, I think what this signals that the Chiefs decided that they were going to move L'Jarius Sneed regardless of what the compensation was, unless they got to the point where nobody was going to give him anything better than the compensatory pick that they would have got had they released him. I think there was a scenario, had they not gotten any offers that were better than the compensatory pick next season, they probably would have released him. I think the concern is solely based on the longevity aspect of it. They said, and they continue to say in multiple reports here this morning, that they were comfortable playing L'Jarius on the tag. A 1-year commitment. Yes, it was over, and it precluded them from doing some other things. We're going to talk about that coming up on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and what those other things need to be as we get to a mock draft on Monday, so don't miss that. But it also gets to the point where that was a lack of longevity commitment for the team. So they could get maybe the last best year, as they see it, out of L'Jarius Sneed in the chance to go for a three-peat without risking anything long-term. And so now that risk falls on to the Titans. They get an elite level player for a lot of compensation, but they're a team that has the cap space, and they didn't have to give up much to get it. I think this is not a reflection on the Chiefs not trying to get more or not holding out for more. I think they could have gone a little bit farther. But again, if interest dried up from this team, there were 3, and as I understand, possibly 4 other teams involved in negotiations, but they didn't get to this level where you could pull the trigger. If you had held out too long on this deal, you probably wouldn't have gotten a deal. And then you're looking at either having to release the player, hope for the compensatory pick, or you're going to have to play him on the tag. And I think that's the last case scenario. We've talked about that over the last couple of weeks. It's the last thing the Chiefs wanted to do. They would have possibly done that, at least according to reports. I think it would have been hard to swallow and hard to move on to some of the other things that they have to do. So L'Jarius Sneed wins. The Tennessee Titans are a draw, and the Chiefs overall, I think they probably lose on this deal. But this was the best deal they could get. They did the best they could. They just weren't ever going to win it, as it appears to understand what the market was for L'Jarius Sneed. Now, what comes next? What happens to the corners? What happens to the cap space that you just got back with this trade? And what do they have to go get done? We have a mock draft for you coming on Monday, and then we're going to start going through all the options, not just there, but depending on how that mock looks, what they have to do in the remaining area of free agency. So don't miss that. Make sure you like and sub and hit the bell here on YouTube. Get subscribed on Spotify and Apple, as well as all the audio platforms. We appreciate you being here for us. This is a bonus episode on Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On podcast. Have a great day, and we'll be back for you on the Monday show with Mock Draft